The topic under discussion today is a critical review of Ulysses by Tennyson. Alfred Tennyson, first Baron Tennyson, was born on August 6, 1809, and he was up to 6 October 1892. He was a British poet. He was the poet laureate during much of Queen Victoria's reign and remains one of the most popular British poets. In 1829, Tennyson was awarded the Chancellor's Gold Medal at Cambridge for one of his first pieces, Timbuktu. He published his first solo collection of poems chiefly lyrical in 1830, Claribel and Mariana, which remain some of Tennyson's most celebrated poems, were included in this volume. Although decried by some critics as overly sentimental, his verse soon proved popular and brought Tennyson to the attention of well-known writers of the day, including Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Tennyson also excelled at penning short lyrics such as Break, 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 The Charge of the Light Brigade, Tears, Idle Tears, and Crossing the Bar. Much of his verse was based on classical mythological themes such as Ulysses, although In Memoriam AHH was written to commemorate his friend Arthur Hallam, a fellow poet and a student at Trinity College, Cambridge, after he died of a stroke at the age of 23. Tennyson also wrote some notable blank verse, including Idylls of the King, Ulysses, and Tithonus. During his career, Tennyson attempted drama, but his plays enjoyed little success. A number of phrases from Tennyson's work have become commonplaces of the English language, including nature, red in tooth and claw. It is better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. There's not to reason why, there's but to do and try. My strength is as the strength of 10, because my heart is pure. To strive, to see, to find, and not to yield. Knowledge comes, but wisdom lingers, and the old order changes, yielding place to new. He is the 9th most frequently quoted writer in the Oxford Dictionary of Quotations. Now we'll have a look at the historical background of the poem Ulysses. Ulysses is a poem in blank verse by the Victorian poet Alfred Lord Tennyson. Tennyson completed the poem on 20th October 1833, but it was not published until 1842 in his second collection of poems. Unlike many of Tennyson's other important poems, Ulysses was not revised after its publication. Written in 1833 and published in 1842 in his well-received second volume of poetry. An oft-quoted poem, it is a popular example of the dramatic monologue. Facing old age, mythical hero Ulysses describes his discontent and restlessness upon returning to his kingdom Ithaca after his far-ranging travels. Despite his reunion with his wife Penelope and son Telemachus, Ulysses wants to explore again. The character of Ulysses, in Greek Odysseus, has been explored widely in literature. The adventures of Odysseus were first recorded in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, and Tennyson draws on Homer's narrative in the poem. Most critics, however, find that Tennyson's Ulysses recalls Dante's Ulysses in his Inferno. In Dante's retelling, Ulysses is condemned to hell among the false counselors, both for his pursuit of knowledge beyond human bounds and for creating the deception of the Trojan horse. For much of this poem's history, readers viewed Ulysses as resolute and heroic, admiring him for his determination to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. The view that Tennyson intended a heroic character is supported by his statements about the poem. and by the events in his life, the death of his closest friend, that prompted him to write it. In the 20th century, some new interpretations of Ulysses highlighted potential ironies in the poem. They argued, for example, that Ulysses wishes to selfishly abandon his kingdom and family, and they questioned more positive assessments of Ulysses' character by demonstrating how he resembles flawed protagonists in earlier literature. Now there is a brief summary of the poem. As the poem begins, Ulysses has returned to his kingdom Ithaca, having made a long journey home after fighting in the Trojan War. Confronted again by domestic life, Ulysses expresses his lack of contentment, including his indifference towards the savage race, whom he governs. Ulysses contrasts his present restlessness with his heroic past and contemplates his old age and eventual death, life piled on life for all too little, and of one to make little remains, and longs for further experience and knowledge. His son Telemachus will inherit the throne, and Ulysses finds burdensome. While Ulysses thinks that Telemachus will be a good king, most blameless is he, centered in the sphere of common duties. He seems to have lost any connection to his son. He works his work, I, mine, and the conventional methods of governing by slow prudence and through soft decrees. In the final section, Ulysses turns to his fellow mariners and calls on them to join him on another quest, making no guarantees as to their fate, but attempting to conjure their heroic past. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and sitting well in order smite the sounding furrows, for my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the girls will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy eyes and see the great Achilles whom we knew. The speaker's language is unelaborated but forceful, and it expresses Ulysses' conflicting moods as he searches for continuity between his past and future. There is often a marked contrast between the sentiment of Ulysses' words and the sounds that express them. Such labored language slows the poem, and in other places may cast doubt upon the reliability of Ulysses' utterances. Observing their burdensome prosodic effect, the poet Matthew Arnold remarked, "These three lines by themselves take up nearly as much time as a whole book of the Iliad. Many of the poem's clauses carry over into the following line, emphasize Ulysses' restlessness and dissatisfaction." And now we come to the themes of the poem. First theme is the reconciliation of religion and science. Tennyson lived during the period of great scientific advancement, and he used his poetry to work out the conflict between religious faith and scientific discoveries. Second is the virtues of perseverance and optimism. After the death of his friend Arthur Hallam, Tennyson struggled through a period of deep despair, which he eventually overcame to begin writing again. During his time of mourning, Tennyson rarely wrote and for many years battled alcoholism. Many of his poems are about the temptation to give up and fall prey to pessimism, but they also extol the virtues of optimism and discuss the importance of struggling on with life. The need to persevere and continue is the central theme of In Memoriam and Ulysses. Both were written after Hallam's death. Next theme can be the ancient world. Like the Romantic poets who preceded him, Tennyson found much inspiration in the ancient worlds of Greece and Rome. In poems such as The Lotus Eaters and Ulysses, Tennyson retells the stories of Dante and Homer, which describe the character of Ulysses, Telemachus, and Penelope and their adventures in the ancient world. However, Tennyson slightly alters these mythic stories, shifting the time frame of some of the action and often adding more descriptive imagery to the plot. For instance, Ulysses, a dramatic monologue spoken by Homer's hero, urges readers to carry on and persevere rather than to give up and retire. Elsewhere, Tennyson channels the voice of Tithonus, a legendary prince from Troy, in the eponymous poem Tithonus. He praises the ancient poet Virgil in his Ode to Virgil, commenting on Virgil's choice of subject matter and lauding his ability to chronicle human history in a meter. Tennyson mined the ancient world to find stories that would simultaneously enthrall and inspire his reader. Now we can study the poem as a dramatic monologue. The poem's 70 lines of blank verse are presented as a dramatic monologue. Scholars disagree on how Ulysses' speech functions in this format. It is not reasonably clear to whom Ulysses is speaking, if anyone, and from what location. Some see the verse turning from a soliloquy to a public address, as Ulysses seems to speak to himself in the first moment, then to turn to an audience as he introduces his son, and then to relocate to the seashore where he addresses his mariners. The Ionic interpretations of Ulysses may be the result of modern tendency to consider the narrator of a dramatic monologue as necessarily unreliable. Ulysses moves through four emotional stages that are self-revelatory, not Ionic, beginning with his rejection of the barren life to which he has returned in Ithaca. He then fondly recalls his heroic past, recognizes the validity of Telemachus' method of governing, and with these thoughts plans another journey. Now, the form of the poem. Just as we know, the poem is written as a dramatic monologue. The whole poem is spoken by a single character whose identity is revealed by his own words. The lines are in black verse or unrhymed iambic pentameter, which serves to impart a fluid and natural quality to Ulysses' speech. Many of the lines are engem, which means that the thought does not end with the line break. The sentences often end in the middle rather than the end of the lines. The use of engagement is appropriate in a poem about pushing forward beyond the utmost bound of human thought. Finally, the poem is divided into four paragraph-like sections, each of which comprises a distinct thematic unit of the poem. Now, there are some autobiographical elements in the poem also. The death of Arthur Henry Hallam, a young poet and close friend of Tennyson, was devastating for him. Tennyson penned Ulysses after the death of his close Cambridge friend, the poet Arthur Henry Hallam, with whom he had a strong emotional bond. When Tennyson heard on 1st October 1833 of his friend's death, he was living in Somersby, Lincolnshire, in cramped quarters with his mother and 9 of his 10 siblings. His father had died in 1831, requiring Tennyson to return home and take responsibility for the family. Tennyson's friends were becoming increasingly concerned about his mental and physical health during this time. The family had little income, and 3 of Tennyson's brothers were mentally ill. Just as Tennyson's outlook was improving, he was adjusting to his new domestic duties, regaining contact with friends, and had published his 1832 book of poems. According to Victorian scholar Linda Hugh, the emotional gulf between the state of his domestic affairs and the loss of his special friendship informs the reading of Ulysses, particularly its treatment of domesticity. At one moment, Ulysses' discontent seems to mirror that of Tennyson, who would have been frustrated with managing the house in such a state of grief. At the next, Ulysses is determined to transcend his age and his environment by traveling again. It may be that Ulysses' determination to defy circumstance attracted Tennyson to the myth. He said that the poem gave my feeling about the need of going forward and braving the struggle of life. On another occasion, the poet stated, There is more about myself in Ulysses, which was written under the sense of loss and that all had gone by, but that still life must be fought out to the end. There is some literary context also. Tennyson adopts aspects of the Ulysses character and narrative from many sources. His treatment of Ulysses is the first modern account. The ancient Greek poet Homer introduced Ulysses, Odysseus, and many later poets took up the character, including Euripides, Horace, Dante, William Shakespeare, and Alexander Pope. Tennyson's character, however, is not the lover of public affairs seen in Homer's poems. Rather, Ulysses from Dante's Inferno is Tennyson's main source for the character, which has an important effect on the poem's interpretation. Ulysses recalls his voice in the Inferno's 26th canto, in which he is condemned to the eighth circle of false counselors for misusing his gift of reason. Dante treats Ulysses with his zeal to explore the world as an evil counselor who lusts for adventure at the expense of his family and his duty. Tennyson projects this zeal into Ulysses' unquenched desire for knowledge, and this grey spirit turning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. The poet's intention to recall the Homeric character remains evident in certain passages. For example, I am become a name, there gloom the dark broad seas, and the deep moons round with many voices. Tennyson seems to be consciously invoking Homer. Critics have also noted the influence of Shakespeare in two passages. In the early movement, the savage race that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me echoes Hamlet's soliloquy, what is a man? If his chief good and market of his time be but to sleep and feed, a beast, no more. Tennyson's how dull it is to pause to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine and use, recalls Shakespeare's Ulysses in Troilus and Cressida. Perseverance, my dear Lord, keeps on a bride to have done is to hang, quite out of fashion, like a rusty nail in monumental mockery. The last movement of Ulysses, which is among the most familiar passages in English poetry of the period, presents decisive evidence of the influence of Dante. Ulysses turns his attention from himself and his kingdom and speaks of ports, seas, and mariners. The strains of discontent and weakness in old days remain throughout the poem, but Tennyson finally leaves Ulysses to strive, to seek, to find, and not to heal, recalling the Dante's damnable desire for knowledge beyond all boundaries. Until the early 20th century, readers reacted to Ulysses sympathetically. The meaning of the poem was increasingly debated as Tennyson's stature rose. Ulysses' apparent disdain for those around him is another facet of the Ionic perspective. He declares that he is meshed with an aged wife, indicates his weariness in governing a savage race, and suggests his philosophical distance from son, Telemachus. Thank you.